Dr. Pauley here with Prestige Chiropractic. Today we're going to talk about overhead movement correction. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how to correct what I call a forward scapula. There's a lot of different ways to interpret this, and again, there's a lot of smarter people than me out there that might have better analysis of this, but this is what I see clinically and what I see results with. So just know this is the way I see it, and this is what I think works really well. So what I'm talking about when it comes to overhead positioning is this. Just about everybody run across, especially those that work in desk settings all day or seated a lot, have this sort of forward position with their shoulders. Their shoulders kind of like fall forward, and their head's going to fall forward with that. And what we tend to find is their head can't tilt back very well because their shoulders are in this position where they have good extension. What we also find when their shoulders are forward is their arm maybe can't get all the way overhead, or they have to bend it to go overhead, which is a compensation, or they even do this thing where they kind of swim it back, which they're internally rotating it to get to that position. We see that with a lot of our athletes doing overhead squats, for instance. They dump their shoulders forward. It ain't good, okay? So what I want to show you is one of my favorite ways to correct this problem. And essentially, if you're having a lot of neck issues, tension headaches, boy, there's a lot of things. Numbness and tingling down the arm, especially if it's most of the arm, not just patches. That's coming from your brachial plexus most likely, and it might be because your shoulder is collapsing on all those nerves here. So it may not be a neck problem, it might be more of a shoulder problem. So here's what we do to correct that, and this is something we sort of do every visit in my office with our clientele, but not with a barbell. This is the barbell version. So here's what we're going to do. I luckily have a barbell in my house, so I'm going to show you the barbell version, and then I'm going to show you a partner version that works a little bit more practically for most people at home. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this barbell, and I've got it on the rack here so it can't come out. So the barbell is placed between the rack and myself, so it's not going to go anywhere, okay? Versus if I had it on this side, it could fly out, and that's not a good place to be. So for safety, we're going to be on this side. So I'm going to find this spot, and let me show what we're actually aiming for. We're aiming for this little area behind the collarbone, but not on the trap muscle. I consistently have clients ask me where this is or where they should be putting this pressure. The best way to find the spot we're looking for, it's the first rib area. I'm going to shrug my shoulder. I'm going to find that muscle, trap muscle. I'm going to find that collarbone, and that little sunken space, when I relax the shoulder, that's essentially what we're going for, okay? So what you're going to do, being very careful of the nerves and the blood vessels in the neck, you're going to go under a barbell. You're going to support it with your opposite hand, and you're just going to stand just like so. Now, I'm going to make sure I'm very erect. I don't want that bar to be on my clavicle directly. So if it was, and it kind of is a little bit, so I'm actually going to shift this up a little bit. So what I've got here is this barbell. I'm just going to stand up gently. So now it's weighted on my shoulder, and I'm just going to bring that arm straight back overhead and straight back down. Now, what I'm basically doing here in a nutshell is I'm using the weight of this barbell to press down on that trap first rib area, and I'm bringing the arm overhead, which my shoulder wants to shrug, but the barbell is not allowing it to. So instead, I have to almost rotate my shoulder or get my shoulder blade back in a better position to kind of stretch it back. So essentially, it's like I'm bringing the arm straight back, then going straight back down, okay? Now, as I bring the arm back, if I have something supportive up here that I can grab onto, I'm going to lock that elbow and I'm going to pull forward firmly. Do a little P&F style stretching up here. I'm going to push as hard as possible, and then I'm going to go back a little bit further, and I have more access than I had before. I'm then going to tilt my head side to side. Now what's happening here is as I move my neck to the side, my rib cage wants to raise with it, but this barbell is blocking that movement. So I'm going to be getting more articulation back to this upper neck, or this lower neck, upper back area right here where those ribs meet. So by the rib cage trying to come up, the barbell's blocking it, so it creates a little bit of mobility in that area. And what you find when you're done with doing something like this is that arm you just worked on has much better overhead range than it did before, if you can compare the two. This applies very, very, very importantly to overhead presses and things like that. we want to make sure that whenever an athlete is doing an overhead press, if they can't get their arm overhead properly, we don't want them to press like this, because this is a shoulder tear or an injury waiting to happen. It's not efficient. Their barbells should be overhead, but they're here, that's not very good. Or what we'll see is they'll do this sort of self-correction on accident by arching their back to get to that position, and they'll press like this. Now they're creating a lower back dysfunction. That's not good either. So we want to correct this as much as we can. Even if you're not lifting weights a lot, you should be making sure that you have this corrected on a regular basis, because as we drive, as we sit at the desk, we consistently have our shoulders forward and we're really not doing a lot of work in the overhead position. So by cleaning this up, you actually really reduce the need for your spouse to give those massages that just kind of work okay in the upper back, and this will actually fix the function. Next, what we're going to do is show you with a partner how you can do that at home if you don't have a barbell set up at the house. So here's a version of how you can do this with a partner at home if you don't have a barbell. What I'm going to do is stand beside this young lady right here, and we're going to find that same spot. You see she's got her collarbone. If she shrugs up, you can see there's this kind of hollow spot. That's where we're aiming for. Drop back down. So what I'm going to do is press my thumb into her, and as you can see, I'm just kind of leaning into her like this. I'm not trying to do one of these. Most people are just trying to do this stuff. Lock the arm and just lean into them, and it's fine, okay? So what she's going to do next is she's going to lock that arm out in front of her, keep it straight as she can, and she's going to bring it straight back overhead as far as she can. Now, see how that's hard for her? She's going to lock it and go right back down again for her. Go overhead again. Lock that elbow tight. And what I'm going to do as her partner is put my shoulder in front of her, and she's going to push down against me really hard. For 3, 2, 1, and go backwards again. Go backwards again. Notice the arm goes back further. She's going to lock it again. Just keep it nice and tight. And push again one more time. Now she's going to tilt her head side to side for me. Back and forth. Right and left and right. Okay? And bring that left arm back again. And notice it goes back just a little bit further. So, if she brings both her arms overhead after that, go for it. That right arm, as you can see, looks a lot better than the left. She would want to do this on the right side as well. And that's it. Do this daily if you can. If you have a lot of headaches or weird sort of like numbness in the face, obviously contact a healthcare professional immediately and cease what you're doing. But a lot of times we see a lot of improvements with neck and shoulder health and even headaches when people do this regularly.